You were sitting in your living room, the soft hum of the television in the background, when it happened. At first, it was just a strange sensation, a lightness in your limbs that made you feel almost weightless. You glanced around, half expecting to see something out of place, but everything seemed normal. You stood up, and that's when you realized your feet were no longer touching the ground. Panic and disbelief washed over you as you floated a few inches above the floor. You reached out, grabbing the back of the couch to steady yourself, but your fingers slipped through the fabric as if it were made of air. Heart pounding, you tried to push yourself down, but instead, you rose higher, your head nearly brushing the ceiling. The feeling was surreal. It was as if the air itself had become a cushion, gently supporting you. You took a deep breath, trying to calm your racing thoughts. The sensation was unlike anything you had ever experienced, an exhilarating mix of freedom and fear. You could feel the air currents swirling around you, almost as if they were alive, responding to your slightest movement. Determined to understand what was happening, you floated towards the front door. With a bit of effort, you managed to open it and drifted outside. The cool evening air greeted you, and you felt a rush of excitement. You pushed off the ground, rising higher and higher, the rooftops of your neighborhood shrinking below you. As you ascended, the world spread out beneath you in a breathtaking panorama. You could see the entire town, the streets and houses laid out like a miniature model. The sensation of flying was intoxicating. You felt a connection to the air, a sense of control that grew stronger with each passing moment. You decided to test your limits, pushing yourself to go faster. The wind whipped past you, and you felt a thrill of exhilaration as you soared over the town. You flew higher, the landscape below becoming a blur of colors and shapes. The speed was incredible, and you reveled in the sheer power of it. Then, without warning, you felt a sudden jolt. The air around you seemed to shatter, and a deafening boom echoed in your ears. You had broken the sound barrier. The shock of it was overwhelming, but even more astonishing was the fact that you were unharmed. The realization hit you like a tidal wave: you could fly, and nothing could stop you. You slowed down, hovering in mid-air, your mind racing with possibilities. The world below seemed so small, so insignificant compared to the vast expanse of the sky. You knew that your life had changed forever. The ability to fly opened up a realm of endless possibilities, and you couldn't wait to explore them all. As you descended back to your house, the sun setting in the distance, you felt a sense of awe and wonder. The sky was no longer just a distant dream, it was your new reality. And with that thought, you knew that this was only the beginning of an incredible journey. The next morning, you woke with a sense of purpose. The events of the previous day felt like a dream, but the lingering sensation of flight was all too real. You stepped outside, the early morning sun casting long shadows across the yard. The air was crisp and cool, a perfect day for testing your limits. You took a deep breath and launched yourself into the sky, rising steadily. The familiar sensation of the wind against your skin was comforting, and you felt a surge of excitement as you climbed higher and higher. The houses and streets below grew smaller, the town shrinking into a patchwork of colors. As you ascended above the clouds, the world below disappeared, replaced by a sea of white. The sky above was a deep, endless blue. You marveled at the beauty of it all, the serenity of being so far removed from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Suddenly, a plane flew past just below and in front of you, its engines roaring. You realized with a start that you were at an altitude where breathing should be impossible. Yet, you felt no discomfort. Each breath you took was cool and refreshing, as if you were inhaling the purest mountain air. The realization was both astonishing and exhilarating. You decided to push further, to see just how high you could go. With a determined look, you continued your ascent. The air grew thinner, the temperature dropping, but you felt no ill effects. Your breaths remained steady and easy, a constant source of wonder. You passed through the stratosphere, the curvature of the earth becoming more pronounced. The sky darkened to a deep indigo, and you could see the stars beginning to twinkle, even though it was still daytime. Physically, you felt a strange mix of sensations. The cold should have been unbearable, but instead, it was invigorating. Your body seemed to adapt effortlessly to the extreme conditions. Emotionally, you were a whirlwind of awe and disbelief. The sheer magnitude of what you were experiencing was almost too much to comprehend. As you reached the edge of space, the atmosphere thinned to almost nothing. You should have been gasping for air, but instead, each breath felt like a sip of the freshest, most invigorating air you had ever tasted. The sky above was now a velvety black, dotted with countless stars. The earth below was a breathtaking sight, a vibrant blue and green orb suspended in the vastness of space. You felt a moment of panic as you realized you were in space, far beyond the reach of any human help. The weightlessness was disorienting, and for a brief moment, you flailed, trying to regain control. But then, you took a deep breath, focusing on the sensation of the air filling your lungs, and calmed yourself. You realized that you could still fly, even without gravity. It was as if the air itself, or some invisible force, was still supporting you. You began to move, slowly at first, then faster, flying through the void of space. The view was beyond anything you had ever imagined. The earth below, the stars above, the infinite expanse of the universe, it was all so overwhelming, yet so beautiful. You felt a profound sense of peace and wonder, a connection to the cosmos that transcended anything you had ever known. As you soared around the earth, you took in the view, the continents and oceans spread out below you like a living map. The realization that you could explore the universe, that you were no longer bound by the limits of the earth, filled you with a sense of limitless possibility. This was just the beginning of an incredible journey, and you couldn't wait to see where it would take you. The exhilaration of flying through space was intoxicating. You felt a surge of bravery, a desire to push your limits even further. You turned towards the inky blackness of space, where no stars shone, and took several deep breaths. The cool, crisp air filled your lungs, grounding you in the moment. With a determined look, you began to fly into the void. You picked up speed, the sensation of acceleration thrilling and terrifying all at once. Faster and faster you went. You were sure you were going faster than the speed of sound, the sheer velocity making your heart race. The void seemed endless, a vast expanse of nothingness, but you pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity. Suddenly, without warning, you crashed into something incredibly hard. The impact was jarring, and everything went black. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness and silence. Then, you jolted awake, gasping for breath. You looked around, disoriented, and saw particles of dust or red sand swirling around you. You realized you were lightly stuck to a hard, rocky surface. You were in a small crater, the walls gently sloping up around you. The dust particles floated in the low gravity, creating an otherworldly scene. You pushed off the surface, rising out of the dust cloud, and gasped at the sight before you. The giant, looming red planet Mars filled your vision, its surface a tapestry of craters and valleys. You looked back and saw the small, irregularly shaped moon Phobos behind you. The realization hit you like a bolt of lightning, you had been going so fast that you had crashed into Mars's moon. The sheer speed you had achieved was mind-boggling. You had traveled millions of miles in just a few seconds. The enormity of what you had done began to sink in. You floated there, suspended in the void, staring at the red planet. Physically, you felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Your body had endured an incredible journey, yet you felt no pain, only a deep sense of awe. Emotionally, you were overwhelmed. The realization that you could traverse the vast distances of space in mere moments was both thrilling and humbling. You took a deep breath, the cool, crisp air filling your lungs despite the complete lack of atmosphere. It was as if the air was being provided by some unseen force, sustaining you in the most inhospitable of environments. You felt a profound connection to the universe, a sense of belonging that transcended anything you had ever known. With a newfound sense of purpose, you began to explore. You flew around Mars, taking in the breathtaking landscapes, the towering volcanoes, and the deep canyons. The view was beyond anything you had ever imagined, a testament to the beauty and mystery of the cosmos. As you soared through space, you felt a sense of peace and wonder. The universe was vast and full of possibilities, and you were no longer bound by the limits of Earth. You knew that this was just the beginning of an incredible journey, and you couldn't wait to see where it would take you next. The exhilaration of flying through space was intoxicating. You felt a surge of bravery, a desire to see just how far you could go. You looked in one direction and shot off like a lightning bolt. Everything turned white, the sensation of speed overwhelming. But then, something didn't feel right. With each beat, your heart ached, then burned, then felt like a dagger was digging into it. You stopped suddenly, too suddenly. Your head was thrown back and forth violently, causing whiplash. Dizzy and nauseous, you opened your eyes and were beyond belief. Looming a considerable distance in front of you was a giant, bright glowing spiral of beautiful swirling colors, the Milky Way. Nearby, a smaller blob of colors, a dwarf galaxy. You had gone so fast that you had shot out of the Milky Way. But something was different. You realized you were floating away from the galaxy. Panic set in as you tried to fly back, but nothing happened. The effects of space began to kick in. You couldn't breathe anymore and had lost the ability to fly. The harshness of space started to take its toll, and everything faded to black. You jolted awake, gasping for breath. You were in a hospital bed, hooked up to IVs and monitors. A breathing tube was down your throat, preventing you from speaking. You looked over and saw your friend sitting in a chair beside you. They told you that you had been in an accident. You had had one too many drinks at the bar and got into a serious fight. It was all a dream. Or was it? You glanced at the TV in front of you, where a news report mentioned a satellite that had lost signal under mysterious circumstances. You remembered flying in front of a satellite in your dream. Was it really just a dream, or was it something more?